There you go. There's a fancy, fancy intro. There's me, Marina.
And
These
me, Shane,
so the reason I'm
Marina in the Shark Tank.
yeah, I'm in the Shark Tank. We our main thing that we are going to do is analyze, do reactions on Shark Tank products from an engineering standpoint. So we figured that it would be kind of cool, especially since I don't want to always have to be on camera. Not that I'm ugly or anything like that, but it's just, we just thought it would be kind of entertaining for us. So today's, we're going to be doing streaming stuff. And today's webinar is going to be top seller questions from Amazon FBA. And as we go along, we're going to be able to just kind of provide some stories, some success stories, some things that didn't work out so well from sellers. But this is from vidIQ, not sponsored, but I looked in vidIQ and I saw that they these are the top questions across the board that people search for in YouTube. And if my puppet here is kind of weird, it's because I'm figuring out the controls. I have a little control thing, and so I might do just weird stuff up here, but we'll see. So, Shane, let's go ahead and jump into it.
All right.
The first question: is Amazon FBA worth it in 2024? What do you think?
Well, Amazon is, short opinion, yes, but with a but. That means
But
that, yes, yes. That means that back in the day when we first started, back in like 2015, it was way easier. And then if you talk to people that were starting back even years before that, it was even easier then. So now, can you be successful? Yes. Is it more challenging than it ever was? Yes. Do you have to be more careful? Yes. So if you are able to do your research, find your products, check your profitability, check your logistics, and do all these different things, then yes, it can work. But some products work really well on Amazon's, some others do not. And it's something that you can do the research about ahead of time just to see if you can be successful on this. In general, back when we first started, if you had a 3-to-1 cost of goods to sell price ratio, you were okay. You had enough money to cover your cost, get a profit, and then pay for advertising, different things like that. Now your ratio is pretty much 4-to-1 to 5-to-1. So that means that it's going to be more challenging. The fees are higher than they were before, and certain things inside Amazon are more strict than they were before. So, again, the biggest thing you can do to help with your success on Amazon is to do your research for your market, your product, but also look at the physical attributes of this particular product. Something that is big and heavy is going to cost a lot more to fulfill than something is super light. If you're selling a notebook, that's light and doesn't weigh much. If you can have a custom, let's say that you had a custom journal, doesn't weigh that much, and maybe you could charge $30, $40 for it. Versus you had a, Topo Chico case of water. You can't charge too much for it, but it's big, it's heavy, and it's fragile. So these are things to think about. And both of these kind of items are on Amazon, but some are more profitable than others. So do your due diligence, pay attention to the logistics, and then also look to see what your audience really wants and find the one that's going to give you the most profit to start with so that you can get your business rolling, so that you can offer additional products to the audience later on instead of going with something that might be low profit to start which might mean you go out of business because you can't get enough profit to keep this thing going. Because even if you do all your due diligence, you're going to run into surprises you weren't expecting, and that extra profit allows you a bit of flexibility for when something doesn't go right, that you're able to recover and you're able to get your next order in, and you're able to keep going.
Yeah, and one of the problems with the small and light, which was what was pushed back when we first started Amazon FBA, is that nowadays it's going to be really hard to find something that's small and light that hasn't. Oh, hold on, I'm checking my expression. There you go. There you go.
Oh, you're very
So,
excited. I see this.
so one of the problems with small and light, and anytime there's like a template for something where here's what you want to look for, here's what you want to look for, just like you mentioned about the ratio um, of what was it? It was 3 to 1, right?
Yeah, for your cogs to your sell price.
hmm So one of the issues is that everybody's looking for that, and a lot of people look on Alibaba or AliExpress. There's a lot of people pushing drop shipping and those types of things, and it's if you get something and you don't do much with it, you're gonna have a problem. I looked up some stats just to give people an example because I was wondering myself if it was actually really worth it to be on Amazon. And so it says here are some statistics. I did since Chat Chat G was messing up. I went ahead and looked at Bing. So it says yes, Amazon FBA is considered worth it in 2024. Here are some key statistics to support this. So this is Bing. A lot of times I use Bing Copilot for my search in AI. And it says in 2022, Amazon's revenue was $514 billion, up from $469 billion in 2021. It says nearly one quarter, which is about 23% of that revenue, is driven by third party sellers. And it says 86% of the third party seller use Amazon FBA to fulfill orders in their Amazon businesses. And 51% of consumers start their searches on Amazon. And it just seems like it says 73% of Amazon sellers are even in the USA. I don't know how hard it is for other folks, but most of the folks we work with, they're in USA, right?
Yeah.
So, what about monthly revenue? What do you think is it says 25% of Amazon sellers sell anywhere from blank to blank. What do you think is the amount that 25% of Amazon sellers sell each month?
That, that's going to be I mean that's a hard thing to define because there are millions of sellers selling, millions of individual SKUs. So there's some people out there, they might have 20 SKUs and they're getting zero, and there's other people that have one SKU and they're making, $10,000 a day in sales. So it's completely, it having an average on that is a deceiving way to look at the statistics because it's so diverse. The biggest thing is that doing your research, understanding your product mix, what your customers want, what your competition is, and everything that goes along with that, that's the important thing. So even if you do everything right, if you have a big competitor, you're making shoes, making sneakers, and you're going to compete against Nike, you're not going to win. So you have to look at these different things. But that's also where audience building is going to be probably your number one important thing, because you don't want to go into the commodity world if you're going to be selling on Amazon. Can you be successful doing wholesaling and commodity sort of things? Yes. However, it takes deeper pockets, and you need to be extremely organized, potentially have your own warehouse facility as well as your own staff. In other words, if you're already a 3PL and you want to offer sort of wholesaling stuff on Amazon, you probably have enough infrastructure to pull that off. If you're starting green, it's going to be tough because your margins are going to be low because you are buying something wholesale from someone else. So your 3-to-1 ratio is already lowered, even lower because you're not the manufacturer. So it just makes it, more difficult if you're going to do it that way, but not impossible. So, most of the stuff that we're going to focus on is going to be either what's called private label or something where you are the manufacturer. Not going to spend a lot of time on RA or OA just because those are okay if you want to get your feet wet and understand how the system works. It's a good learning exercise, but it's usually not. It's so difficult to do both OA and RA at this point that I wouldn't recommend it unless you are ready to do a lot of hustling for not a lot of profit.
You need to define OA and RA for the people who don't know what that is.
Okay, so online arbitrage and retail arbitrage. This is where you, let's go with RA. So for RA, that means you would be purchasing something at a local store, a Target, a Walmart, garage sales, different things like that, and then you flip it on Amazon. And normally for that particular process, you would spend your time researching, figuring out what products sell for a high price that you could obtain for a low price. And then you go around your local area or garage sales or different things like that. And I would encourage anyone doing this that there are a number of application tools that you could have on your phone where you can be somewhere, you could scan it in, and you can look at that ratio. If you have something that's selling for $25 and you can get a hold of it for $3, then you're doing okay. However, that means there's a lot of driving, a lot of hunting, and if you're starting off green, Amazon will usually these categories are gated, which means you're not allowed to sell in them until you've proven to Amazon that you're a legitimate seller. And oftentimes that means that they want invoices from a wholesaler of whatever that product is before they'll let you even sell in that category. And that can be, a headache for people that don't know how to navigate that. However, once you've opened up different categories, you can sell everything in, pets or everything in household or something of that nature. And then there's the additional thing of selling, particular brands. Like if you found, if you had a set of Nike shoes that was on sale for $3 because it was a closeout and they were going for $90, if you try to sell that on Amazon, most likely that brand is gated, and you would need to have permission from Nike to sell that particular one. So there's general gating that lets you in or out of a category, and then there's brand gating, which is specifically for the brand. Disney's going to have the same sort of thing. You're not going to, if you find something that's a legitimate Disney product, it is unlikely that you're going to be able to sell that on Amazon. So this is something that, again, people can make money doing it, but it is very challenging. It takes a lot of time and effort and just, running around to find these deals that, one, give you enough margin, and then two, you can actually sell. And that's why having those apps on your phone live wherever you happen to physically be makes sense, because then you can make the decision, am I going to buy this and then try to send it in, or am I going to go, oh, I can't sell this, never mind, move on to the next one. And then online arbitrage, very similar, except you're looking online. And there's a gazillion different tools out there that are supposed to help you find these items at a more wholesale or sub-wholesale price. And it's a similar sort of situation where you are looking for deals where the price is so low, but it sells for high on Amazon. And then you obtain the product, you have it shipped to you, and then you ship it into Amazon FBA. And again, you can make money doing this, but it's a lot of work, and the replenishment is the thing that's the challenge on this. Is just because you found a good deal on whichever product, you might have 5-10 of these, but the thing that makes Amazon beneficial to people is the ability to scale selling of a particular product. And that's why private label or being your own manufacturer makes sense, because now you've got as many products as you want, or as many units as you want of a particular product. And then as soon as you are building your audience and people are looking for that product, you produce more, you sell more, versus you're in with, 15, 20 other people all selling this particular type of, product. You run out of stock, Your Walmart's out of them now. You have to go find a different one. And that's why it's so difficult. You're sharing with everyone else who's selling on that listing, and your ability to find the inventory is very difficult and challenging, especially if you find something that was great, but you might only have 5 of those and you may never see them again, and then you have to go find a new deal.
I think that's pretty good, and I think it explains it. We tried, and we actually did OA and RA, right? And so I don't want to spend too much on that because I think a lot of it is leading into the next big question. That's the second most searched question on YouTube. Hey, what are you doing? All right, so this one is one that I know at first you were kind of concerned about. Now, the whole question about how to start on Amazon FBA is answered by a lot of these gurus that have courses. So it's a little bit difficult saying from that standpoint how to start because we don't like covering information that is out there already. If you just there's so many articles and things that are saying, set up a seller account, find a product. Well, there's a whole lot in that, right? When you're finding a product, sourcing a product, creating the listing, there's a lot of steps that you need to follow, but there are also a lot of people out there who are covering it on YouTube. So, as far as us, we like looking at things from an engineering standpoint and just from the standpoint of the experiences that we have, such as maybe the problems that come up all of the time, something that has really sunk people's products on Amazon. So, I think more of what I want to ask is how you start on Amazon FBA and the tips that will help a seller avoid a lot of these different problems, even if they've already started. In 2024, what are you seeing?
Well, the thing that we look at is the generic suggestion out there for people that are interested in FBA, and all the ads that you see are encouraging you to, find something on Alibaba. Maybe you put your own brand on it with kind of a PL, and then you launch it on Amazon and go. And so this to me, this doesn't work anymore. It worked, years and years ago, but things are very, very saturated at this point. The methodology that you would go through of researching and different things, those are all going to be very similar. But if you are, if you do a search in Amazon and then use different tools like either Helium 10 or Jungle Scout to look at the approximate sales of, a unique product, and then you can go in, do your research inside Amazon and look to see, what's selling well, what's not selling well, which ones have, good reviews, bad reviews, how long has this particular product been on Amazon, all these different things. You need to do this regardless of how you're going to do this. But what had been, one of the ways that people got started was to find something that's popular, go to AliExpress, order some of those, and then make your own listing and then put it up there. Well, everyone's been doing that for years now. So almost every single one of these particular types of products is going to be saturated. And so the biggest thing that if you're going to be successful is, to me, it's two different things. It's going to be your audience that cares about you and therefore this product. And then number two, how you are differentiating yourself against whatever else is in the market right now. And that's going to lead you to success a lot better than trying to find, we'll use the example, fidget spinners. When they were popular, as soon as that got popular, next thing you know, there's, hundreds of different fidget spinners on Amazon. Well, what happens with that? Well, what happens is some people are like, okay, well, we need to, how do we differentiate ourselves? Well, let's make ourselves cheaper, and we'll do what's called the race to the bottom. The thing that's challenging on this is a lot of the companies that are over in China that will supply a significant amount of these things, and obviously if you're getting something off of AliExpress, it's coming from China. Um, they will see the things that are popular because they're paying attention to Amazon just like you are, and then they'll provide their own product or literally the same product that you are buying through Alibaba to put on Amazon, except their cost is even lower. So they can cut the price in half and they can flood the market with cheap products that are indistinguishable from each other. And next thing you know, you might have 5,000 units and now you can't sell them at all. And this is why the advice of finding something that's moving, quickly, go to AliExpress or Alibaba, get a bunch of them, throw them on there, is not going to work anymore. So your best way to determine what's going to work on Amazon is, one, if you already have your own business and you're already making your own products, like let's say you're selling on retail or you're selling, on Shopify or something like that, is have an audience. If you're starting from scratch, look into your interests and Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, different things like that. Because what you want is you want to find an audience, you want to find a person that has a problem that you can solve with a physical product. This takes time. It's not something you're going to do overnight. It's something you need to do research on. You need to talk with people. You need to do customer development and understand what this is. Once you have that going, then you can start researching what these different products are. But the thing to not do is, find something that's on Alibaba and then, get your own brand thrown on top of it and then go. Those days are over, and I would say that customer research and making things specifically for people is going to be your best way to be successful, because once people start seeing that you're interacting with them, you're looking for a way to solve a problem for them, now you've got a tribe that is looking for this particular product. And at the same time, you're getting feedback directly from these people on what kind of product do they want. Well, what features would they want with this? What's your price point? What does it look like? What's the aesthetic? Different things like that. And you'll end up creating a unique product for this particular group of people. And then at that point, they're going to be much more likely to purchase yours, even though there might be a competitor that's cheaper in the market, but it's not the one for them.
One of the things that we are getting out of Shark Tank, watching the videos so that we can comment on them and analyze them, is that it's amazing that a lot of times, pretty much the sellers who get offers, they ask, where are you selling? And they'll mention Amazon, just about all of them. So Amazon is one of the channels that when they create a product, they know that they need to put it on Amazon. And if they're having it only on their own website, a lot of times the sharks will tell them, you need to go ahead and put it on Amazon so that you can get those sales. But the main thing that I was bringing up is that you really need to have an audience. That's absolutely gonna help. Instagram, TikTok, if the people who have followings and they figured out that someone out there has a problem, and instead of copying someone else or looking on Amazon, that's already passed. That's, just think about that being in the past. It's gone away, and you're going to be competing, with someone who already got the head start. So if you want the head start, then you do content marketing, pictures, photos, success stories, those types of things, to really build a following so that you're sort of seller proof. These sellers who are trying to piggyback or, have counterfeits or just compete with you at half your price. If you have an audience, it just makes it not matter that much more. You have other things to worry about. So I strongly encourage people to start doing some type of content, some kind of photos, videos, to follow their journey or somehow provide value to a group of people. So let's go ahead and go to the third question. I think all of them are kind of related. Now, This one, people are asking, well, how do I sell on Amazon in 2024? So in the first one, they're asking, hey, is it even worth it? And you got the what was the second question?
It was how you get started.
How you get started? And I think with this one, because people, it's kind of related to the what do you keep doing with that rock? You why is there a rock in here? Okay. All right. So as far as how to sell on Amazon FBA, instead of repeating the last question, I think it's more of what are maybe some best practices and some absolute mistakes, for instance, with packaging that you figured out lately? Operations in logistics, supply chain, those types of issues that we deal with all of the time. The other folks are going to cover, the basics of pricing, SEO for your listing, reviews, those types of things. But what we found is that's just the beginning. After you launch your product, now what? And what's going on? So I want to talk about this more operations, logistics, profit margin, all those Amazon seller fees. Let's talk about that.
All right. The thing to look at is, let's say that you've done your research, you figured out a market, you figured out an audience, different things like that, and now you're in the beginning stages of your product development. This is where you can make mistakes that can really tank you later on, or you can do a number of things that will help you along the way. There's nothing that's going to be a guarantee. However, there are certain things that will definitely cause a lot of problems. The first one to look at is, again, that ratio. What is your cost? The 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1 ratio. Will your particular audience pay that price of, let's make up a number, $30, something like that, for this particular product, whatever it is? Can you get that at a low enough price that you have between your 4-to-1 and 5-to-1 ratio for your cost of goods landed? And what that means by landed is your manufacturer has produced the item and either gotten it to you or gotten it into Amazon. And if you're shipping from China, then that can be, that's another challenge that you'll have if you're trying to ship directly into Amazon from China. It can be done, but there's extra steps with that. Or you can have your product, shipped to you or a warehouse or, honestly, your garage or a storage unit. If it's something that is, let's call it shelf stable, then once you have control of the product, what did that cost you? And so what that means is they might charge you a per piece price, but then they're shipping. And there might be additional packaging and different things like that the manufacturer is going to charge you because they're paying for the truck to bring it over to wherever you are. Then you need to ship that item into Amazon FBA. If you use what's called the partner carrier inside Seller Central, then you get huge discounts over, getting your own truck to ship directly into FBA. So I would encourage everybody to use the partner carrier inside the Amazon system. You got two benefits. One, you get super great rates. And then number two, that revenue or that cost of that shipping is actually going to come out of your Amazon revenue pool instead of you paying, up front and then covering back. And that's, to me, that's a benefit because that's one more place where I'm keeping all my information, all my costs for Amazon kind of in one place. And it's easier to look at the numbers. So when you're looking at what does this item cost you, you have to take into account all the packaging. So let's say that you get an item, and one of the examples that I always use is something that is in glass or something that it's in plastic. If it's like, a food item, a jar of peanut butter, something like that, you have a way different need for packaging on one versus the other. And I think I'll probably go ahead and do a whole video just on that to demonstrate the difference. But the thing to think about is how heavy is the item, how fragile is the item, and then what do I need to do to make sure that that item is going to stay safe when going through the Amazon system. And what that means is You put this thing in a box, it gets shipped over to Amazon, somebody takes it out of that box, puts it on a shelf, then they put it in an Amazon box, and then UPS drops it off gently or not gently at someone's front door. So this item, whatever it is going to be dropped a number of times, and so you need to make sure that thing is packaged well. Well, if it itself is fragile, then that means you're going to have bubble wrap, extra boxes, all sorts of different things that you need to do to make sure that that gets there safely. If this is something like, something in a plastic bottle, a thing of vitamins, supplements in a plastic jar, those are pretty much unbreakable. So you don't need to have a lot of extra packaging on that. Something to consider when you're in your product development phase of, okay, I know what I want to offer my audience, but how am I going to package this? You also have to look at how does the customer perceive this particular item? Maybe they want glass, and maybe, these particular group of people aren't going to accept something that's not in glass. Well, then you have to deal with the repercussions of that from a packaging side. On the other side, maybe they don't care, and you can put it in anything that makes something, that is, the least costing package that you can get away with, while still meeting all the aesthetic needs of that particular audience. So it's something to pay attention to. But then on top of that, the other thing to look at is your fulfillment fees can be significant depending on the category, the cost, and different things like that. In general, when you're selling on Amazon, you're going to pay a 15% commission, what's called a referral fee, for every single purchase that's done on the Amazon site. Then you're going to have a fulfillment fee, and that varies from, $2-3 on the low end for something super small and super light, all the way up to, $20, $30, $40, $50 if you're shipping something big and heavy. There is a revenue calculator. Do a search for a revenue calculator inside Seller Central and use that tool. And the good thing is you can put in any parameters, the size of the product, the weight of the product, things like that. And you can determine before you actually make a purchase, what will this cost to fulfill? This will allow you to calculate out this 3-to-1, 5-to-1 ratio and see how much profit you're making for this particular product. It's very possible that you might be selling something at, $30 and then you're losing $26 or $20 just in the referral fee and the fulfillment. Well, then, what did it cost you to make? If it costs you 10, that'd be your 3-to-1 ratio. You got 0. So it's not worth doing. So you need to look at that. What is the shape, size, and all these different things, because they're going to affect the fulfillment costs. If you're paying attention, there are ways to make things cost less. But if you're not paying attention, there's easy ways to go past particular lines in either dimensions or price or weight, that you'll have something that you just changed something by 1 inch, and all of a sudden it went from, $570 to $750. Per 1 unit. Well, over time, if you're scaling on this, $2 to $3, if you're selling, 1,000 units a month, well, that's $2,000, $2,500 that you're paying extra for fulfillment fees that you don't need to if you would have just changed the packaging a little bit. So it's something to look at, and it's something to pay attention to, because especially if you are on limited funds, the revenue that you're bringing in from your sales most likely is going to be the revenue that you use to pay for your next order of product, especially in the beginning. So you want to maximize how much profit you're getting so that you can place your next order in a timely fashion where you can get it in stock before you run out. So these are some of the challenges that I see on a regular basis. That also goes with, shipping into Amazon. You could ship in via UPS. If you just have small boxes, you're sending in, 50 units or something small, all the way up to LTL, which is a less than truckload, which is pallets. And then you can send all the way up to a full truckload or multiple trucks. Once you get big and you're selling, $10,000 a day, then that's the kind of situation you're in. But when you package these particular items, you can make a difference, especially if you're on a pallet. You might be shifting the quantity of units that ships on a single pallet by 100 units just by a couple of tweaks in what you're doing. And each one of these pallets is going to cost you money. So if you could be more efficient with your packaging, you could save money not just on fulfillment, but also on inbound shipping and get more products in for the same price. Because usually, the maximum that Amazon's going to allow on a pallet is going to be about 1,500 pounds. So you want to get as close to that as you can. And then sometimes, if you have a big box this thing's going in, then you're only going to get a handful of items. And for the most part, they're going to charge you for the volume and the weight of this particular pallet. But if your stuff is lightweight but big, you're shipping pillows that aren't vacuum sealed. You're still going to pay almost the same amount as someone shipping in, cans of water. Because one's super heavy, one's super light, but they're taking up the same amount of room on a truck, so they're going to charge you about the same. The weight's different, but you also have to look at what's called dimensional weight of the whole pallet. So it's something you can calculate ahead of time. The good thing on Amazon is not only can you use your revenue calculator to figure out what these prices are before you spend any money, you can also go in and make let's call them test shipments, where you see, okay, I'm going to ship this many things on a pallet or in a UPS box. What does this cost? And you can learn what those numbers are, put them into your spreadsheet, run your numbers, and figure out what these things are ahead of time, so that you don't find out, oops, I need to ship this in. I didn't realize I was going to pay $2,500 to ship this in, and now my profit is below what I need to make my next order.
One of the things, one of the things that would be helpful, because every time someone asks you a question, they get a lot since you have so much experience. Why don't you kind of summarize a little bit, if you can, what you said? And also, I was thinking, remember the guy with the went through the Amazon program, kind of a startup program, and he had some type of sauce or barbecue sauce that he put in jars and didn't package correctly. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to kind of talk about him as a warning and then also as an example, but it will also be just a little bit helpful if you can somewhat just kind of state um, in a couple sentences, summarize what you just said. And we'll also have a transcript. I'll get the transcript and have it where they can, read it or take a look or follow along.
Okay. So in a nutshell, use the revenue calculator to figure out the costs you're going to incur by using Amazon FBA before you actually place an order for physical product, so this doesn't cost you anything. Then on top of that, also do your shipments ahead of time. Make your listing of an approximate size item, and then set up your shipments. You don't have to pay anything. Again, you're using this as a research tool, and figure out what is it going to cost you to ship this in. So figure out your numbers for selling the item, figure out your numbers for shipping the item, and that's going to give you the ability to be flexible, and also have the knowledge in your head when you're talking with your manufacturer. Oh, I want, 24 in a box instead of 12 in a box, because that can make a difference. And that's, so there it is. Run your numbers, revenue calculator, and make up test shipments so you could see the numbers before you have to spend a dime, and then figure out that you accidentally made a mistake, because it's super easy to make a mistake. You won't know until you actually do it. And what I'll do is I'll get the an example for the barbecue sauce guy, just so I could show it, and I'll be right back.
All right. So that means I'm going to dance and entertain everyone. One of the things I wanted to mention is a lot of the tools, Helium 10, and then there's a couple other ones, are really looking into AI. They're really working on where you can have AI photos of your products. There's so many tools out there that it's one thing that's going to make it easier in terms of design and those types of things, and being able to have really great images for your product, the listing, all those types of things. And most people use GPT, and it also has a Dolly and other image bots, the GPT bots that you can use to create some of these images and get your listing, their bullet points. You can download or copy to a document your competitors' listing, kind of put it all in a PDF and upload it so the chat can take a look at it and maybe come up with something better. So I work on AI marketing, and I'll be discussing some of those things, but I just wanted to kind of mention that while Shane was walking off to get something so that, I don't have to do this little,
Oh,
swirly
there you
thing and
go.
just, yeah, just entertain people. All right, go for it.
All right. So the example that I did some research on this years back. I was helping someone out with a barbecue sauce that they already had. They sold in local stores, and that we were going to get them up on Amazon. So while I was doing my research, I found this example of exactly what not to do. So we'll talk about it here, and I'll try to keep it as short as possible. But it was some guy in a town that had his own commercial kitchen to start making this barbecue sauce. And people seemed to really like it. And he somehow got into some sort of incubator that was associated with Amazon. So he was literally being promoted by Amazon in a lot of different channels of, hey, try XYZ's barbecue sauce. It's the best ever. And he was on like some different newsletters and things like that were coming out from Amazon. And there was definitely a big push to help promote this guy. And so what happened that was a problem is, meanwhile I'm doing research on barbecue sauces. He's a competitor. He was live, and I ordered one of his sauces just to see, what did it taste like? What did it look like? What are we doing for packaging? This is some of the research that I do when I'm working with a client to make sure that they're doing, what's the market doing right now? What can we do better? And what mistakes can we not make going into this? So I ordered the one of the jars of sauce, and what I got was a bag, just like one of those mailer bags that's the bubble on the inside and the craft paper on the outside. And I was like, that's a little weird. And I picked it up because it was on my front porch, and it was squishy. So I was like, that doesn't sound good. It also made a clanky sound when I shook it. So I opened it over the sink and discovered that the problem was the sauce was outside of the jar, and the jar was kind of everywhere inside the bag. So I had a sack of sauce, which is a problem. You don't want a sack of sauce when you send stuff to your customer. This is the fragility issue. And then what I saw over time, he got negative reviews because people were getting his sauce and it was broken, which makes sense because that was a glass jar that was completely unprotected. And this isn't the brand, but this is the same jar that he had. Looked just like this. And what he did, without knowing any better, is he shipped in these jars directly from his co-packer. Co-packer is someone that actually produces on a commercial level your product for you. He shipped these in basically what I call naked. So just like this, and then Amazon went, okay. And then they just, they put it in the bin, and then when someone placed an order, they just grabbed this and they threw it in whatever made sense, a box, a mailer, whatever. And then once this got to the customer, I'm going to guess that there's probably about a 60% failure rate because, zero protection on something like this, and you're going to have a problem. Well, it didn't take but like a month or two. And even though he had big sales and he was being promoted, he was getting negative review after negative review after negative review, and eventually they shut down his listing. I went on the guy's Twitter to look at kind of the history of what it was, and I saw at one point that when he was ready to ship, into Amazon, he took a shot outside of the UPS store with his stack of products, and I noticed that they were in the co-packer boxes. If you're having a food product made, something like this, your co-packer will pack these either in cases of 6, 12, 24, and they'll be in a corrugate box, but those are meant to go on a retail shelf, i.e. your grocery store. And so those boxes go on a pallet. That pallet goes to the grocery store. Some person puts it on the shelf. And usually no one worries about it at that point. On Amazon, it's not the same thing. It's a piece of glass. Now you have to take a heavy glass jar and ship it somewhere. It's going to get dropped. It's going to get knocked around. So he sent in all his stuff unprotected directly into Amazon and got his account shut down. What he would have wanted to do is to either put that in a plastic jar to where now it's not fragile anymore, or put bubble wrap around it, put that in a cardboard box, do the drop test, and Amazon has a drop test. You're supposed to drop your item from 3 feet onto a concrete floor 5 times, and that means, once on its head, once on its foot, once on 2 different sides, and once on a corner. If the item survives that, then it's acceptable for being in Amazon. That's going to be your minimum test to make sure that this particular product is going to make it. But, he ran himself out of business, at least as far as on Amazon, just because he didn't do it right. I'm surprised that they were promoting him so well, but no one coached him to understand these different, these different gotchas that happen with Amazon. But a lot of people, especially when they're starting on, whatever their product is, they think about grocery stores because that's where they see these sort of things. And what is appropriate for a grocery store is not necessarily appropriate for e-commerce from a packaging perspective. So something to think about is, can your packaging survive all these different steps that they're going to go through? And you need to include that in your cost of goods sold when you're doing all these calculations that we talked about in the last section, because it'll be necessary. Or if you change your packaging, you may not need to worry about any of that. It's something to think about. And also, whoever you're having do the manufacturing. You might have a manufacturer that has access to glass jars but doesn't have plastic jars just because of their equipment or something like that, and vice versa. So it's something to think about when you're sourcing and looking at different opportunities for your manufacturing. Is how is the manufacturer going to package this? How much flexibility do I have to choose this? And then you think ahead of, can I minimize the packaging by a packaging choice versus I have to add all sorts of extra stuff to protect it?
And another thing with glass is that you just pay a lot of money for that, a heavy breakable product. So, anything else on this one? We can move on to, I don't know if we're on number 4 or 5.
All right, let's see.
You gonna show that rock?
Trying not to.
It's probably fine. If someone wants to be that picky, then they can take a hike.
Ooh,
I'll bite them. Yep, I'll bite them. All right, with this one, it's almost like the one that's about sourcing, but it's so how do you find good products on Amazon FBA in 2024? What type of tools do you think people are using that are kind of the best tools? And maybe they're partnering, maybe they're doing something on social media. What are you seeing?
The 2 main tools that have been kind of at the forefront for a number of years now is either Helium 10 or Jungle Scout. They're kind of the big dogs for this particular one. And the main thing those tools will let you do is find we'll call it the approximate number of sales that a particular product has right now. And that lets you judge, how well this particular product is doing. And then you repeat that over a number of different products to get a feel for how the market is doing, what will people pay, different things like that. Now, when you build your own audience, you're going to be somewhat insulated from that because you're not necessarily trying to do kind of me too. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna throw my hat in the ring with the exact same product. You're not trying to copy people, but you're trying to look to see what are other solutions that your audience would be choosing now, even though you might find something better specifically for them. So as far as finding products, I'd say your audience research on what problems they're having and what products they need or what solutions can be provided by a product. And so it's a little bit different than we used to do, years back, where you're just looking for what's the most popular. You're actually looking for what is it that will help the most number of people, specifically in your audience. And then you can go back into Amazon and start researching and, ordering products that are very similar to this, looking at the reviews, seeing how those particular products are made. Because frequently they'll be, once you hone an audience down to a group of people that have a particular need, they might be purchasing a number of different products to solve a one problem. can you combine some of these attributes from product A, product B, and have something that actually solves it for them in in one shot? Or they're reluctantly buying a product to solve a problem, but you can find a better way of either producing it or presenting it or even just packaging it that'll be more appealing to those particular people. So finding products is really about talking to your audience and figuring that out, and then kind of coming in the backside of what things do they need, and then you start doing your research on, okay, well, what exists right now that fits that, and then how can I do something better?
And one of the stock standard answers I think that people would get is, look at the Amazon bestseller products, use product finding tools like Helium 10 or Jungle Scout, look at the top category and it says, for example, in garden and outdoors, type the negative key plus any random set of numbers and click on search. Um, and it says start your search in a specific category. And when I say I just kind of quickly looked at what Chat G says, because it's going to pretty much summarize all the stuff that's on the internet and YouTube videos that is common. So you want to follow someone that is giving you information that you're not going to get anywhere else. And so there are some really good gurus out there, that are going to be really good at that type of stuff. And they have some decent Facebook groups where people are asking the same questions over and over, but it'll get you going pretty fast. So besides the number of reviews, the weight, the price, bestseller rank, all those sorts of things, I think it's just really in 2024, it's really a matter of finding an audience, and you might even piggyback on someone else. If someone else is building an audience, and you're really interested in the category, then you can just go ahead and look. I'm pointing. Look, pointing.
Oh, impressive.
Yeah. So I think if you were to find someone who has an audience and follow them, you might be able to pay more attention to that audience's needs. You don't have to start completely over. So that's one of the tips that might help you in 2024 that we previously did not have to do. And so far, I see people, and in the Shark Tank videos, it's usually Instagram and TikTok that people really build their followings quickly. Facebook, some of these other ones, I don't Twitter, that's not going to be it. So check out Instagram and Twitter for audiences that are large and see if they keep mentioning problems with something. All right, what is the next and I believe last question? This one's a tough one because it's something that comes up all of the time. How do we find suppliers on Amazon FBA for Amazon FBA in 2024? So one of the things I was thinking about is that people are already going to tell you go on Alibaba and they're going to give you the criteria and those types of things. And if you're really desperate, AliExpress, or they're going to say drop ship or do some of those things and see how well it sells. And then that's when you just scale it up and change something about it to put in for private label. But I wanted us to talk about, for example, you had discussed the Chinese facility, just what they sometimes do to steal your IP, to, get around some of those things. So talk about some of the issues and maybe tell some of those stories, because that is something that is very expensive. You contact a supplier, you build a product, and then they completely just steal your design and sell it to other folks. And what are you going to do about it? So how do we avoid situations like that? Or at the very least, what do we do to kind of help prevent it?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. It always has been, But as there's more and more of a feeding frenzy on FBA, more people, if there's more money, there's more people to do these different things. Definitely one of your challenges when dealing with Alibaba, or even just kind of independently finding your own manufacturer over in China, is going to be your IP protection. Pretty much assume you have no IP protection, because it's not like if they do something, you can actually sue them and find them. The thing that's going to allow you a better chance of success is going to be relationship building with a particular manufacturer, and that takes time, and it also takes talking to a number of people and networking, different things like that, because if they genuinely want your business, then they're less likely to breach that sort of trust. Whereas if you're just some order that came over on AliExpress and you turn out that you're the next fidget spinner and you had them develop it, then it wouldn't take much for them to either make a whole bunch more of the exact same product and make their own listing, or not even make their own listing, or they just jump on your listing and they sell the product. And that's not technically a counterfeit because it's actually identical, but at their price. Or they could start selling it to other people. They're like, oh yeah, we saw this thing. It's really popular. You want some of it? And the next thing you know, if you did something that was super duper popular, you might start seeing versions, knockoffs of that on Alibaba, and it could actually be your same company that is making a slight modification, going, wow, they found a gold mine here. Let's go ahead and go in on this. So it's something you have to be careful about. Is it going to happen every time? No. It's the more margin you get, the more units you sell, the more popular an item is, or an item style type is, the more likely that is to happen. And your best protection against it is, a long-term relationship with these particular folks. Also having like inspectors that you hire to bring in there, and getting their knowledge of dealing with this particular supplier. How have they been? Are you seeing other complaints from other people making similar things? Because you just don't know, and that's going to be the challenge on dealing with that. Now, you also have, if you go through Alibaba, if you pick certain ones, they're going to be more, let's call them more vetted, and less likely to do something like this. But you're never going to get a guarantee unless it's something to where, there are people that we know that, travel over to China, talk with folks, and they've been doing this for years, and they've got a pretty solid relationship, and, they're fine. But if you're new and you're green and you don't know what you're doing, then the risk is quite a bit higher. So it's something to think about. Can you do this successfully? And if it turns out that something happens, do you have a plan B? And that's why it's also good to look for multiple suppliers of a particular item, just because, one, you're dealing with the IP issue, but two, you might have something where they're not able to get a particular product out in time, or your lead time is 120 days when they told you it was going to be 4 weeks or something like that. So it's another thing to look at. We encourage as much as possible to source from U.S. One, you've got legal protection. You actually have it here in the U.S. if you're dealing with a U.S. manufacturer, and they're more likely to care about a particular item, what you're making there. However, the costs are frequently quite a bit higher. But if you're making something that's more of a premium product that is solving a problem for your unique audience, very often they'll pay a premium price. And if you can have it made here in the U.S., you get certain benefits of, one, IP protection, as well as different better shipping rates, because you're most likely they can ship directly into Amazon from wherever you are. You have the ability to go visit the plant and take a look. How are they manufacturing this product? What's going on? So these different things are benefits, but they are going to cost more. And so finding suppliers, you've got ThomasNet are some of the main ones, but it's not too hard nowadays to do a search, either with ChatG or some of the other search engines, and say manufacturer for X, whatever your particular product is, and you'll get a number of different hits, and that's where you start talking to people and figuring out what is their size? What kind of minimum order quantity will they require? What's the price? And this goes for the ones in China as well. It's the same process, because what you're trying to find is you're trying to find a supplier that you're not the smallest one in their particular customer list. Like if you have someone that's doing stuff for Disney, and then you have another toy, and Disney has 60 million units they need to get out, and you trying to do an MOQ of 300. If Disney says, hey, we need another 100,000, you're going on the back burner, and we'll talk to you in another 6 weeks when it comes back around. So you might stock out. So you want to find someone who's small enough that they care about you and they want your business, but you also want to be able to make sure that at least for the meantime, they can scale enough for whatever your sales projections are based on your audience, so that you don't run them out to where you need 5,000 units and they can only produce 1,000 a month. So it's something that's a balancing point. And as your business matures, your needs for your manufacturer will mature. So what you're looking for is the Goldilocks or the sweet spot at every single one of these different steps. And it's okay to switch from manufacturer to manufacturer over time, just because the needs for the business are going to change. But you don't want to go with a super big guy to start with, because you may not get priority. And so starting with the smaller ones, they also tend to be more family run instead of a large corporation, which means you might be talking with the owner of that manufacturing facility, or somebody that has a direct hands-on role in those particular products. And those people tend to care more. You make a more personal relationship. And those are ones that are going to last longer and give you better results, especially if you need to make some changes, or you need to change how this thing is shipped or something like that. They're more willing to work with you because they want your business, because both of you are sized, in the right, you're the right size for each other for both of the businesses. So just another thing to think about as you're going through looking for suppliers.
I was wondering, so with trade shows, are people still doing those? I mean, I know that you mentioned that some folks were going, but is that something, post COVID, that people can find a supplier there at all?
Yeah, I think they're booting back up, and it depends on the type of product type that you are doing. But there are trade shows that is a viable place to find that, because when you go to trade shows, you're finding vendors or manufacturers that are looking for people to produce this, and then that also gets you hands on. You're talking to someone, and then also frequently you're in the product development phase. You might talk to someone who's in a company that makes something similar, and you're like, hey, what if I wanted to do this? Can we do that? And you'd actually get, almost like a real-time consultation of, can you make this particular product? This is what I have in my head. My MOQ is, 1,000 units or something like that. And I plan on doing this. And you can talk with them. So I would say, if you can go to trade shows, one, research them first. Look to see if there's any sort of information on people that were at the trade show in the previous year or years. Look for any online sort of, very frequently they'll have different keynotes and things like that. Look to see if there's any old ones on YouTube from the previous year or previous years, so you can get a feel for it, because it is an additional expense. You're flying there, hotel, food, all those sort of things. But if you can go there and get acclimated with how that manufacturing side of that industry works, you do stand a better shot of finding something that you want than only doing online research. But for some people, that may not be an option. But I would say, if you have the capital to do that, do your research first before you spend money. But then I would take advantage if you have that opportunity.
We are going to summarize from here. So, Amazon FBA, the top questions, we've talked about that. And we wanted to provide kind of key takeaways, so that you can have something that is a reminder that hopefully you remember when you come across the issue. We can go to the next slide. All right, Shane, here you go.
Thank you. The key takeaways are, Amazon can be worth it, but you need to do your research and do your market analysis to understand what the costs are, the fees you're going to encounter, and everything that goes into the entire supply chain for that product. You need to understand your audience and build a product that solves a problem. If you're solving a problem for a set of people, they're going to be more loyal to you than to some competitor or some sort of low cost brand that is doing a similar thing but not pointed towards them specifically. You need to ask or determine, what are the true final costs to get this product either into Amazon or to your front door so that you could send it into Amazon. And then also, how is the item packaged so it'll make it through the Amazon system? And then, what is the time frame for getting this product made? For, especially if you're doing something overseas, something can take, 6 weeks, longer, depending on also the time of year. How long does something take? If you have something US based, it might still have, a 6 or 8 week lead time just because of production. So it's something that you need to clarify so you know ahead of time. And then, do you have the time and resources to establish and maintain a good relationship with the manufacturer? Again, if you are a small fish in a big pond, you may not get treated very well. So look for manufacturers that are closer to you in size so that both of you can help each other as far as a business relationship. You want to be big enough in their pond that they respect you and they will give you certain priorities. But on the flip side, you also need them to have the capability to scale with you as you grow your business.
And one of the things I thought about is just that you can tell a lot about a relationship when things go wrong. So when there's a mistake, are they trying to hide it, cover up, say it's not their fault? Are they making excuses? Are they blaming you or someone else? So once you get to that situation, a lot of times it might be easy to overlook that, or just kind of look the other way because maybe you feel that that's the only supplier of a product, and you can stick with them for a little bit if you want. At least that's my opinion. Shane, you might think something different. But of
Uh,
course, you need to start looking.
yeah. So another thing on that point is when you're manufacturing things, there will almost always be some kind of mistake. The packaging's a little bit different. It's a little heavier. Something that wasn't supposed to leak is leaking. Something's a slightly different color or scent than you planned on. Of course, you're going to get samples and do all these sort of things before you book the main run. But when there are errors, assume there will be errors and assume best intent on the manufacturer side that they're going to fix these things. So as long as you go in there with a positive attitude of, hey, we had a couple of hiccups, we're going to make for the next run, we're going to fix these couple of items, and then go forward with it. A lot of places will work with you, especially again if you're in that Goldilocks size of a business, because they want to keep your business. And another thing to look for is once you get your product going, it's always a good idea to look at least have a list of other suppliers that can make similar products, because you never know if the supply chain might get disrupted or different things like that happen where this particular manufacturer either can't get it to you in time, they've lost their source of a raw material, or something else happens. There's a tornado and their plant is damaged and no one's going to be there for weeks as they make repairs. So because these things are real things that happen, having a backup plan of another manufacturer that can get you a similar or exact type of product is always a good idea to have. Don't worry about it when you first launch, because that's too many things to think about. But once you're up and running and you've got your momentum, go look for that second supplier, just in case.
And one of the things you mentioned, assume positive intent. When we met at Apple that long time ago when we were working there, one of the bosses that you might remember, first name M, last name K, he actually gave me a lot of really good advice, and he was a piece of work, right? You did not like him at all. And he was very tough. But one of the things that he did say is, when you're sending emails, how you don't know what someone exactly means by something, and it can actually be your filter, however you're feeling that day, you might take something the wrong way. And he said that you'll get really far in life if when people make mistakes, or even if you just read something and and you don't know what the person means, if you just assume positive intent, that it'll really help you. And that's one of the things that helped me get so many promotions when I was there is that there's so many times that I was getting ready to go, I was a little bit more of a hothead, I think, right? And so I'd be ready to go to have some words with some people, and they when I talked to them and I was assuming positive intent, like, "Hey, I read your email, wanted to kinda talk about it." They had a lot of times they absolutely did not mean things in the way that I thought. So, with these manufacturers, especially with translation issues, it's really gonna help you a lot if you just assume positive intent and do your best, but always be suspicious and have a backup plan, right?
Trust but verify.
Yes, trust but verify. So I think that's the end of our first not webinar, but I wanted to encourage you to ask questions in the comments on YouTube, or you can find us on the various socials. Um, at Profit Smart Tips is where we are, for instance, on Twitter. And you can barely read it on these slides as far as I can see. We might make them a different color. But one of the reasons we wanted to do this is we just really wanted to share all the years of knowledge that we've gathered and with the people who are really trying to do something good for themselves and their families. So I hope that you enjoy the information that we dropped. It might be overwhelming or too much. So just let us know. You can email us, you can contact us via our website, and of course, here on YouTube, and we'll answer your questions. And if we get enough people that want to know about something, then we'll make a video about it. Until then, right? Do we have a fancy sign off? Signing off.
All right. I
No,
don't I don't have a
no.
fancy sign off.